Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, Forever in Memory. In this video, we'll be honoring American celebrities who have passed away today and in recent days, along with other notable figures from around the world. Before we begin, please show your support by giving this video a like. It really helps the channel. Thank you. And let's get started.
Died on September 28, 2025. Neville C. Luhmann, Jr., 82, was an American physicist whose pioneering research in plasma physics and fusion energy made him a respected leader in his field. Over the course of a long and distinguished career, he combined theoretical insight with experimental innovation, contributing to the global effort to unlock fusion as a source of clean and virtually limitless energy. Luhmann served as a professor at the University of California, Davis, where he became known not only for his research, but also for his dedication to teaching and mentoring the next generation of scientists. His work advanced understanding of plasma waves, diagnostics, and the complex interactions that lie at the heart of fusion energy research. Through his leadership, laboratories at UC Davis became hubs of collaboration, drawing students, researchers, and visiting scholars from around the world. Beyond his technical achievements, Luhmann was admired for his patience, clarity, and passion for science education. He authored numerous scientific papers, contributed to groundbreaking projects, and remained deeply engaged with international collaborations aimed at turning fusion from theory into reality. His passing is a significant loss for the scientific community. Neville C. Luhmann, Jr. is remembered as a brilliant physicist, a devoted teacher, and a man who dedicated his life to the pursuit of knowledge that could one day change the course of human history through sustainable energy.
Died on September 27, 2025. Christian, born Gaetano Cristiano Vincenzo Rossi, 78, was an Italian singer whose smooth voice, heartfelt ballads, and timeless romantic style made him one of the most beloved figures of Italian pop music in the 1980s. With a career defined by emotion and elegance, he captured the spirit of an era and became the soundtrack to countless love stories across Europe. Born in Palermo, Sicily, Christian's love for music emerged early. He pursued his passion with determination, moving to Rome to build a career in the competitive world of Italian pop music. His warm, expressive voice and ability to convey deep feeling quickly set him apart, and by the late 1970s and early 1980s, he was a household name. Songs like Cara, Sarà per te, and Un'altra vita became staples of Italian radio, celebrated for their lyrical sincerity and melodic richness. He was a frequent presence at the Sanremo Music Festival, where his performances became emblematic of Italy's romantic pop tradition. Fans cherished him not only for his music, but for the sincerity and humility with which he approached his art. Even as musical trends shifted, Christian remained a respected and admired figure, performing for loyal audiences and continuing to record new music throughout his life. His passing is deeply felt in the Italian music community and among generations of listeners who grew up with his voice. Christian is remembered as more than a singer. He was a storyteller of the heart, a bridge to an era defined by melody and emotion, and a beloved artist whose music will continue to live wherever love is celebrated in song.
Died on September 28, 2025. Tony Harrison, 88, was an English poet, playwright, and translator whose eloquent, fearless, and socially charged work reshaped contemporary British poetry
and brought classical literature into vivid dialogue with modern life. Over a career spanning more than 6 decades, he became one of the most distinctive and uncompromising voices of his generation, a writer who fused lyricism with political critique, intimacy with public conscience. Born in Leeds into a working-class family, Harrison's early life profoundly influenced his writing. His poetry often reflected on class, language, and identity, exploring the tensions between his northern upbringing and the elite literary world he later entered. After studying at the University of Leeds, he published his first collections in the 1960s, quickly establishing himself as a poet of fierce intelligence and emotional depth. His work was celebrated for its technical mastery, particularly his use of traditional forms like the sonnet, as well as for its passionate engagement with social justice, memory, and the power of language. Harrison's theatrical works, including The Trackers of Oxyrhynchus and The Mysteries, reimagined classical texts for contemporary audiences, while his television poems such as Thee, a searing meditation on class conflict in Thatcher-era Britain, sparked national debate and controversy. As a translator, he brought new life to Greek tragedies and Roman plays, infusing them with contemporary urgency without losing their ancient resonance. Throughout his career, he remained deeply committed to making poetry accessible to all, often performing his work publicly and refusing to distance himself from his roots. Critics hailed him as a poet who spoke truth to power, who wrestled with the contradictions of modern Britain, and who never stopped believing in the power of words to provoke change. His death marks the loss of a towering figure in English letters. Tony Harrison is remembered not only for the beauty and brilliance of his verse, but for his unwavering dedication to the idea that poetry belongs to everyone, a voice of conscience, defiance, and humanity, whose words will continue to challenge and inspire for generations to come.
Died on September 28, 2025. Robert J. Lifton, 98, was an American psychiatrist, author, and public intellectual whose groundbreaking work on the psychology of violence, trauma, and totalitarianism profoundly shaped modern understanding of the human mind under extreme conditions. Over a career spanning more than 7 decades, he became one of the world's leading voices on the psychological consequences of war, genocide, and political oppression, combining rigorous scholarship with deep moral conviction. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Lifton was educated at Cornell University and New York Medical College before serving as an Air Force psychiatrist during the Korean War, an experience that sparked his lifelong interest in how ideology and violence shape human behavior. His early research into the thought reform practices used on prisoners of war led to his seminal book, Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism, which introduced the concept of brainwashing into public discourse and remains a foundational text in political psychology. Lifton's work extended far beyond the battlefield. He conducted pioneering interviews with survivors of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, producing Death in Life, which won the National Book Award and changed how the world understood the psychological toll of nuclear warfare. He later turned his attention to Nazi doctors, exploring how ordinary individuals became agents of atrocity, and examined the moral struggles of Vietnam veterans grappling with guilt and trauma. His scholarship always combined historical depth
with psychological insight, revealing the ways individuals adapt or fail to adapt to overwhelming moral crises. Throughout his life, Lifton was not only a scholar, but also an activist. He spoke out against nuclear proliferation, war crimes, and abuses of power, insisting that psychological understanding must serve humanity and justice. He taught at institutions such as Yale, Harvard, and the City University of New York, mentoring generations of students and scholars who carried forward his interdisciplinary approach. His death marks the passing of a towering figure in 20th and 21st century thought. Robert J. Lifton is remembered not just as a pioneering psychiatrist, but as a moral witness, a thinker who confronted humanity's darkest capacities while insisting on its potential for conscience, resilience, and transformation.
Died on September 28, 2025. Harvey Aaronson, 89, was an American journalist, editor, and author whose career spanned more than half a century and left a lasting imprint on narrative nonfiction and investigative reporting. Known for his sharp prose, relentless curiosity, and commitment to telling complex human stories with depth and nuance, he became a respected voice in American journalism and a mentor to many younger writers. Born in New York City, Aaronson developed a passion for storytelling early, studying English and journalism before beginning his career in newspapers. He worked for several major publications, where his reporting covered everything from politics and social change to crime and cultural trends. What set his work apart was his ability to see beyond the headlines, to explore the motivations, struggles, and contradictions behind the events he covered. Aaronson's reputation grew with his incisive long-form writing and his work as an editor, where he helped shape the careers of countless journalists and authors. He was also the author and co-author of several books, including notable works of true crime and social commentary that blended investigative rigor with literary style. Whether examining high-profile legal cases or chronicling the lives of ordinary people caught up in extraordinary circumstances, Aaronson approached each project with empathy and intellectual honesty. Throughout his life, he believed deeply in journalism's power to inform, challenge, and connect, and he upheld the highest standards of the profession, even as the media landscape transformed around him. His colleagues remembered him for his generosity, his unwavering editorial judgment, and his insistence on accuracy and truth. His passing marks the end of a remarkable era in American reporting. Harvey Aaronson is remembered as more than a journalist. He was a storyteller, a teacher, and the guardian of the craft whose work continues to inspire those who believe in the enduring importance of the written word.
Died on September 27, 2025. Nick Rassus, 81, was an American football player remembered for his speed, intelligence, and determination on the field, as well as for the deep respect he earned from teammates, coaches, and fans alike. A standout defensive back at Notre Dame during one of the program's most storied eras, he helped define the toughness and precision that became trademarks of Fighting Irish football in the 1960s. Born and raised with a passion for the sport, Nick Rassus became a key figure under legendary coach Ara Parseghian, anchoring Notre Dame's defense with sharp instincts, explosive plays, and a relentless work ethic. He was twice named an All-American, and his leadership helped propel the team to national prominence. Known for his ability to read offenses and deliver game-changing tackles, he became one of the most feared and respected safeties in college football. Rassus went on to play professionally in the American Football League, AFL, for the Atlanta Falcons, where he continued to display the same dedication and competitive spirit that defined his college career. Even after his playing days ended, he remained deeply connected to the sport, mentoring young athletes and supporting Notre Dame football for decades. Off the field, he was admired for his humility, generosity, and loyalty, qualities that endeared him to friends and colleagues long after his final game. His passing is deeply felt across the Notre Dame community and among those who cherish the golden era of college football. Nick Rassus is remembered not just for his achievements on the gridiron, but for the character, discipline, and heart that made him a true embodiment of the Fighting Irish spirit.
Matthew McConaughey was born on November 4, 1969, in the small city of Uvalde, Texas, into a family that valued hard work, resilience, and storytelling. His father, Jim, had once been a professional football player before running a successful oil pipe supply business, while his mother, Kay, was a teacher with a gift for language and warmth that filled the household. Growing up as the youngest of 3 boys, Matthew was exposed early to the rhythm and charm of Southern life, dusty backroads, big skies, and conversations that often felt like performances in themselves. From an early age, McConaughey showed a magnetic personality. He was curious, imaginative, and had a natural flair for entertaining those around him. Yet his childhood was also grounded by discipline and strong values. His parents believed deeply in independence and responsibility, lessons that would later shape the way he approached both life and acting. In high school, he was known not just for his charm, but for his thoughtful nature, often described as someone who could listen as deeply as he could talk. After graduation, he initially set his sights on becoming a lawyer and enrolled at the University of Texas at Austin, where he studied film as part of his pre-law education. It was there that his path began to shift. A chance encounter with a casting director introduced him to the world of acting, a world that spoke to his creative instincts in a way law never had. He took small roles in student films and commercials, discovering an undeniable comfort in front of the camera. What had started as a curious experiment soon grew into a calling. McConaughey realized that acting offered a unique space where he could explore humanity, its contradictions, vulnerabilities, and desires, while also channeling his natural charisma. As he neared the end of college, he made a decisive choice. Rather than pursuing law, he would follow the uncertain but exhilarating road of an actor's life. This decision would set him on a journey that began humbly, but would ultimately make him one of Hollywood's most recognizable and versatile stars. The young man from Texas, who once dreamed of courtrooms, was about to find his place beneath the lights of movie sets, a stage perfectly suited to his restless curiosity and boundless energy.
After deciding to pursue acting, Matthew McConaughey threw himself into the uncertain and often unforgiving world of auditions, small roles, and long waiting periods. His early years in the industry were marked by persistence and a belief that every opportunity, no matter how small, was a chance to learn. That breakthrough moment arrived almost by accident in 1993 when he was cast in Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused. Originally written as a minor part, McConaughey's charismatic portrayal of the laid-back, endlessly quotable Wooderson made him a standout. The now iconic line, "All right, all right, all right," was improvised on set and became a calling card that audiences would associate with him for decades. This early success opened doors. Over the next few years, McConaughey took on a variety of roles that showcased his range, from dramatic performances in A Time to Kill and Contact, to lighter turns in romantic comedies. Hollywood quickly recognized his rare combination of leading man charm and grounded everyman relatability. By the early 2000s, he had become one of the most bankable stars in the industry, often cast as the affable romantic hero in films like The Wedding Planner, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Failure to Launch. Yet, despite the fame and financial success, McConaughey began to feel creatively confined. The romantic comedy roles that had made him a household name also threatened to define and limit his career. By the late 2000s, he made a bold and risky decision. He turned down lucrative offers, stepped away from the spotlight, and waited for scripts that would challenge him. This self-imposed hiatus, what he later called his unbranding, would become one of the most significant turning points of his career. It was a gamble that paid off. In the early 2010s, McConaughey re-emerged in a series of critically acclaimed dramatic roles that redefined him as a serious actor. Performances in The Lincoln Lawyer and Mud reminded audiences of his depth and dramatic power, while Magic Mike showed a darker, more unpredictable side of his talent. Each project built momentum, shifting public perception and preparing the stage for one of the most remarkable career resurgences in modern Hollywood. The transformation wasn't just professional, it reflected a deeper shift in McConaughey himself. He was older, more introspective, and more deliberate about the stories he wanted to tell. Acting was no longer just a career, it was a craft, a way to explore truth. That evolution would soon lead him to the role that would define this new era of his life and cement his status as one of the most respected actors of his generation.
The turning point of Matthew McConaughey's career, and perhaps the defining chapter of his artistic life, arrived with a series of performances in the 2010s that critics would come to call the McConaissance. The actor who had once been typecast as Hollywood's charming romantic lead reinvented himself completely, embracing darker, more complex roles that demanded vulnerability, emotional depth, and fearless authenticity. The film that most dramatically announced this new chapter was Dallas Buyers Club, 2013. As Ron Woodruff, a hard-living electrician diagnosed with AIDS in the 1980s, McConaughey shed more than 40 pounds and immersed himself in the psyche of a man fighting for his life and dignity. The result was a raw, unforgettable performance that won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, along with the Golden Globe and universal critical acclaim. It was more than a career triumph. It was a declaration that McConaughey was no longer content to coast on charm. He was now an actor in the deepest sense, willing to risk everything for the truth of a character. This period saw a string of powerful performances that cemented his legacy. In HBO's True Detective, 2014, he delivered one of television's most celebrated performances as Rust Cohle, a deeply philosophical and tormented detective whose brooding presence and haunting monologues became instantly iconic. His work in Interstellar, 2014, as Cooper, a pilot and father driven by love and sacrifice, showcased his ability to balance blockbuster scale with deeply human emotion. Even in films like The Wolf of Wall Street, 2013, where he appeared briefly as the eccentric Mark Hanna, McConaughey stole scenes and left a lasting impression. What made this era so remarkable was not just the awards or acclaim, but the personal transformation behind it. McConaughey had learned to embrace silence, nuance, and complexity. His performances carried a weight that reflected his own life journey. The restless Texas kid, the young Hollywood star,
the man who stepped back to rediscover himself. He brought all of it to the screen, and audiences felt it. Beyond acting, McConaughey expanded his influence as a writer, producer, and philanthropist. His 2020 memoir, Green Lights, became a bestseller, offering philosophical reflections and lessons drawn from a life lived boldly. He also devoted himself to educational and charitable work through the Just Keep Livin' Foundation, supporting youth empowerment programs across the United States. Today, Matthew McConaughey stands as one of Hollywood's most respected and enduring figures, an actor who defied typecasting, embraced reinvention, and built a career on his own terms. His journey from Texas to the Oscars is more than a success story. It's a testament to persistence, authenticity, and the courage to follow one's own path. And with every performance, he continues to remind audiences why great acting is not just about transformation on screen, but the evolution of the soul behind it.